listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Rumble, everywhere you can find live video. That's right, tune in to us here every single Tuesday night. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside, he's not here this week. He's enjoying some time with his wife. Gotta love that. What a family man. But Sean will be back next week. Instead, we got, he's here with us every week. Who is that?
Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar! Oh my gosh, he's coming. He's back from his pay-per-view event this week. That's right. Rage in the Cage. You probably don't remember that, do you?
I remember Rage in the Cage.
Oh, hell yeah.
I remember Rage
Nobody
in the Cage.
out there knows because that's an inside joke.
Mm-hmm.
That was what was going to compete with the WWF
That's right.
back in the day.
We were gonna compete.
That's right.
We had ideas for everything. Man, we did. We had our own theme parks.
Oh,
we had
yeah.
our own wrestling thing going on.
We had it all.
We wrote books, made video game consoles.
That was fantastic.
When you're a child, you can
Virtual
do anything.
Boy.
Yeah, you can do anything.
Absolutely. Your imagination. That's right. Your imagination.
The whole show is just going to be us saying the same thing at the same time.
Sorry, Sean, you don't get to be included. Maybe he's joining us online.
He might be.
He better not be. He's with his wife. That's the reason he's not here this night.
Spend time with your wife.
That's right. You're supposed to be off this week enjoying some time. Some lonely time. You and Amelia are supposed to be enjoying each other's company.
Every night I have is alone time. Because I'm alone.
Sad but true. I'm with you in that boat. Hey. Well, I don't want to go any deeper than that in that discussion.
Okay, now I'm scared. I'm scared.
We're not going any further on that. We got a packed show.
We do.
Another packed one.
We have a review of a movie that scared me. Maybe not in the way that it was meant to, but it scared me.
Definitely not in the way it was hoping to scare people, I think. And it's the big movie on the block this week.
It is.
So it's the only review we have because it's our Halloween review and
the new release review. Isn't that special?
Isn't
Sometimes that lines up perfectly.
The only time this month. We were hoping to have more, but it happens to be the only. Next week is Black Adam and the
Pearl.
sequel or prequel to Pearl.
The prequel.
Or X, which is Pearl.
X.
Yep. And then we've got the on and only Big Boy on the Block. It ended up being #1 at the box office, and you could stream it.
Yeah.
And there's probably good reason you could stream it.
Yes, I'm not surprised that it was #1 because of obviously the franchise that it is. And of course, we speak of Halloween, specifically Halloween Ends. Yes,
that's right.
But
before we dive into that, I do want to give. It's not really a shout out. Condolences and just thoughts and prayers to one of our good buddies. He's tuned in to the show
a
few times, and every now and then he can. I know he's busy with his own life.
He reaches out,
but he'll throw a comment
down
in the comment section. And that's our good buddy Tristan Mormon. His mother just passed away Sunday, and
our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family.
So please, if you can, say a prayer for them and keep them in your thoughts, and send well wishes and good vibes and everything you can. Definitely, they need it right now, and absolutely, Red Moon Crew's right behind you. Tristan, we're with you, man. Reach out if you need anything. But anyways, let's...
We love thee.
Absolutely. We want to talk about movies. And we've got a slew of headlines. One in particular, I think, is actually
I think we have
very
an interesting show.
Very interesting.
Overall. Even the movie, I think our discussion will be interesting because while it may not be favorable, it was unique. So I think that it's going to be worth getting into,
yes.
definitely.
Not my least favorite in the series.
I don't think it's my least favorite, but it's not
And I mean that in terms of the trilogy we've gotten.
Yeah.
In Halloween, Halloween
the
Kills, and
franchise
Halloween
overall,
Ends.
for sure.
And then, of course, definitely not in the franchise overall.
The Rob Zombie Halloween movies exist, so...
I don't even count those.
So I'm just saying.
Or Resurrection with Busta Rhymes.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one definitely is not taking the cake in that regard. But while we discuss that in depth, we also will talk about virtual ads being placed
I know. Gosh.
in the rings of poo. No, we're actually
anything. Maybe we're just going to get into it.
I just think it'll be funny because what better way to ruin that show even more? We're actually going to have our final thoughts on next week's show in our multimedia segment.
I know. I can't wait.
We're going to be talking about the wrap
finale.
up.
Like both Rings of Poo has ended. If you can't tell how we feel about it, but House of the Dragons finale is this upcoming Sunday. So
I can't wait.
Oh gosh,
such a better series.
But we'll be able to discuss both the shows in their entirety. That'll be fun. I like that.
We also did have another sad loss in the Hollywood realm.
Always.
I don't even. You know what? I'm not including this person in the Hollywood realm. They're above that. They're better than that.
I agree.
We had Robbie Coltrane, who played Haggard.
Well, you just pissed off all the Harry Potter community.
Look, sorry,
Haggard.
Look, may the 4th be with you. I'm a Trekkie fan.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's
okay.
right. What's the? I forget the quote we always throw in with Gandalf.
It's a meme with Patrick Stewart.
Yes.
And he's sitting there, and it says, "May the 4th be with you."
Force. I'm sorry.
Yeah, may the Force be with you, Harry. And then it's attributed to Gandalf, and the picture is Patrick Stewart. Like I love it.
So great.
I love it.
Just piss everybody off.
Yes.
Hagrid,
yeah.
played by Robbie
Coltrane
Coltrane in the Harry Potter movies, passed away this past week.
Who's he was most known for Hagrid, but I mean he did have a acting career mostly with British productions, but I mean he was a good actor, and everything I've seen of him, he seemed like a very just genuinely nice guy. So it is one of those things where when you have humble people in the acting industry, it's always sadder when they go than the ones that.
Unfortunately, we are coming across fewer and fewer of those.
Yeah.
But let's move on with the rest of the show.
Yes.
I think we're ready to go into
this review.
Yeah, this will be a fun one. Here is our review, of Halloween Ends.
The long-awaited ending to Blumhouse's Halloween reboot/sequel trilogy has arrived. Promising a definitive ending for Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, Halloween Ends from director David Gordon Green has now arrived, and after the poor reception of Halloween Kills, many have anxiously awaited the final entry. Does it give fans the send-off that they have been waiting for? Taking place 4 years after Halloween Kills and bringing the trilogy's story up to present date, Michael has not been seen or heard from for the entire 4 years. But his presence is still greatly felt as the town of Haddonfield lives in constant fear of his return. Laurie Strode and her granddaughter Allison, played respectively by returning actresses Jamie Lee Curtis and Andi Matichak, have decided to move on with their lives, doing their best not to live in fear. Newcomer to the franchise Corey Cunningham, played by Rohan Campbell, develops a budding romance with Allison, though he himself is a social pariah due to a tragic incident years prior. As the town continues to bully Corey, he is led down a dark path that will collide with that of Myers himself, as the film attempts to explore the nature of evil and its effects on the community. Halloween Ends does offer a definitive ending, while exploring unique new ideas that are built upon the framework of its predecessors. Exploring the nature of evil and the fear and paranoia the citizens have descended into is in and of itself not a bad way to add something fresh and new to the series. Halloween Ends even has one of the best openings to a Halloween film since the original, with a solid first third of the film creating a slow burn that feels like it's building towards the great ending we were all hoping for. Then it descends into the same trite and unfocused storytelling Halloween Kills suffered from. While Halloween Kills was all over the place, with a terrible story, laughable dialogue, and nothing genuinely scary, Halloween Ends does at first feel like a course correction, Picking up the plot threads of the town's fear and anger that creates the ridiculous mob of the last film, Inns could have explored this paranoia and the effect Myers has had on these people while staying true to the franchise and giving fans the final showdown between Myers and Strode. Halloween Ends, however, after a solid start, promising these things, makes a quick turn into left field, choosing to explore the genesis of evil through Myers and new character Corey in the most unfaithful and ridiculous ways possible. Much as scares were scarce in kills, Ends also is never a scary experience. And while it does tone down some of the overly gory deaths kills had, it still never delivers anything that feels in line with the more subtle buildup of tension and scares that is what makes Halloween. Myers himself only exists in this film to drive home the themes David Gordon Green and Danny McBride have, and his final confrontation with Laurie feels like a tacked-on set piece at the end of the film. Marketed as Jamie Lee Curtis's send-off just as much as Myers, neither are done justice other than flashbacks to the original movie, something that we've already seen done with Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. There is no narrative through line within the film that makes it the culmination of these characters' story. While nowhere near as pathetic as Jurassic World Dominion, it's still a sad final chapter to one of the biggest horror franchises of all time. Halloween Ends suffers again from Hollywood's lack of creativity, while still thinking themselves somehow witty or clever. The themes Halloween Ends chooses to explore are admittedly clever and could have made for a fresh new Halloween film. But Green and McBride put too much stock into their own cleverness, and we end up with something where the idea is more important than the narrative, which is just bad filmmaking. Halloween Ends isn't the worst the franchise has to offer, but for a set of films that began with such promise that seemed to really be offering a fresh and solid course correction for the series, Green and McBride ultimately failed to deliver. I give Halloween Ends 1.5 out of 4 stars.
Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. You quoted it.
I did.
From the beautiful Halloween Kills. Yeah, that phrase didn't.
It ended.
What is the deal with like things now needing a catchphrase? Like chants are always like all the rage now.
They don't know how to realistically convey hype and this. Because here's the thing: I don't have a problem with the idea of like the paranoia creating like this mob in the town. It's the way Halloween Kills goes about getting them there and handling it. The execution's terrible, and that's how I felt about this movie. I don't have a problem with some of the ideas brought in with this movie, but they're all, I think, executed in like the worst ways possible that don't really match Halloween. And granted, I gave this one 1.5. I'm really harsh on it. And a lot of that is just like with Jurassic World Dominion giving that a total bomb, is because as a wrap-up to a franchise, especially it's supposed to be specifically kind of a wrap-up to Michael Myers and the character of Laurie Strode as played by Jamie Lee Curtis, it's like this is supposed to be the film that sends both of these characters off, that gives them that cap, and it's abysmal at that. And that's one of the reasons I think I'm so harsh with the 1.5, just like I gave Dominion a bomb, is because if this is supposed to be your cap to such an iconic franchise and iconic characters, you blew it completely.
Yeah, no, totally. I would agree. I ended up not faulting it as much. And here's the reason why. I ended up giving it 2 out of 4. Mm-hmm. And I completely agree. It's a debacle. They totally tarnished this. It's so sad to see the potential this series had.
Yeah.
At least Jurassic World, I didn't care after the first one. It wasn't
true.
terrible, but I did not care where it headed because I knew it was just dumb fun.
Yeah.
Halloween 2017 when 2018 when it came out and like we knew Blumhouse was going to do a three movie trilogy, and I was expecting, after seeing that one, high hopes for the next 2, and actually seeing not only Michael Myers revitalized, but ultimately brought back to the forefront as the creator of the slasher flicks and to be taken seriously again.
I was hoping to get like a single narrative kind of told across these 3 films.
Yes.
And it's funny because going in, they already knew they were going to make these movies. Unlike the Star Wars sequel trilogy was just, there was no overarching idea or plot, and there wasn't in these movies either. But at least with Star Wars, you already knew that it was just people making it up as they went along. I had hoped with this, because they already knew they were from the outset that they wanted to do this, they would have had more of a plan. And I do think you could see in Halloween Kills and in this the overarching plan they had with this idea of like the effects of evil on the town of Haddonfield,
Right.
and how the paranoia and the anxiety and the fear. Like, I do think that definitely is an overarching theme across all three movies.
Well-
so they did have that. I just don't think they executed that
Agreed.
in a way where the narrative flows well across all three.
And where Halloween Kills was bad in terms of excess with regard to like gore and violence,
Well, just the
and even the
dialogues,
dialogue
yeah.
was bad. The writing, but even the way things coalesced came. They happened too rapidly, too quickly from the moment of just like, again, mob rule taking over, but also it had some few key plot points that were well done. I mean, I could have, if you had started it in a more realistic nature and fashion in terms of it being, instead of it being rushed, really truthfully, the mob mentality could have been a good storyline, and especially the storyline of Laurie or Jamie Lee Curtis's character not actually being such a huge figure with regard to Michael Myers being after her, because this whole entire time it's always been, oh, she's Michael Myers' sister. They debunked that in the first movie, and they're like, no, we're not going with that plot point.
Yeah.
And it's in the second movie that you find out, oh, no. It's literally, he's just the embodiment of evil. He's not
Terrorizing
after
this town,
right?
yeah.
Terrorizing the town. It's not after just her. Well, they completely retcon that to a degree in this one,
Yeah.
and make her a central figure, only because not only is she maybe not Michael's target, but now the town blames her for bringing him back. And it's like, but why?
Because
why?
they know she's significant to audiences. They had to make her significant in this movie to give
And
her.
we knew
to
it
give
was
her
Jamie Lee Curtis's send-off.
Yeah, they had to make her significant because it's her send-off. But again, that contrasts with what you had established in the prior two movies, where she's just a survivor of the original night. She's not exactly the key to everything like she was in prior movies.
And you also don't disrupt that narrative and retcon it in your final film. Like you said, that's the culmination of everything you built. But then replace that sort of with a new key main character that hasn't been in any of them.
I also hate they really build up, I think, in the first and in Halloween Kills, the idea of Michael Myers being being the shape and this force of evil and this unstoppable thing, only to kind of retcon that in this movie too by being like, no, he's just a man. And it's like, well, you can't have it both ways.
Right?
You see him get the tar like smacked out of him by a mob at the end of the movie, and all these things they do to him to kill him and that he doesn't die. And then in this movie, it's like, oh, well, actually, he's really not that, And I'm just like, okay, but you can't have it both ways.
Well, and they even kind of undermine that point in this film as well by just having certain scenes that are so bizarre in the terms of whether it's the transference of evil to another person, or even like the resurgence of energy from killing, because that's where he gets it. There's just moments that I'm like, okay, you're trying to be metaphysical.
I don't want to spoil things, but there is a new character that's introduced in this movie who is significant to the plot of this movie.
You know what? Hold on. Spoiler alert.
Complete spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. You have time to turn it off now.
So there's a character they named Corey Cunningham that becomes a love interest to Allison, Laurie Strode's granddaughter, who, through a tragic accident at the beginning of the movie, the town kind of turns against him and view him as a monster. And so he's bullied, and he goes through this kind of course through the movie where he kind of just gives in and accepts he is this monster town thinks he is, and that could have been a really interesting story.
Oh, so good.
But the way they go about doing it is ridiculous, and you get to this point where he's like in this like homeless camp underneath an overpass, and he gets knocked out and drug into the sewers, and he wakes up, and it's Michael who drug him in there, and everything from that moment on.
I would say that's about a half hour into the movie.
Everything from that moment on just goes completely sideways.
Yes.
I remember I went and saw this movie with my friend Christina, and at first, like, we were talking about at the end, and she's like, at first I thought maybe he was going to lure people down there, basically like kind of like not literally, but in a metaphorical sense, be feeding people to Michael Myers.
Right.
And thank God it didn't go that way either.
That would have been just as bad.
But what they did's not as good.
I saw that feeling too.
And I was just like, what is going? Like literally from that moment on, everything in the movie, I was just thinking, what is going on here?
Same.
Why are they doing this?
Yep.
And it doesn't fit the Halloween in the way they go about doing it. I love the themes they try to explore about the nature of evil. There's a scene where Laurie Strode's describing there's evil that's like inherent and has always existed, which kind of is referencing Michael. And then she's talking about there's evil that is created and nurtured, and that's supposed to be kind of a parallel to Corey.
Nature versus nurture.
And while I don't think that scene was executed that greatly either, I did really like what she was getting at with that comment about two different kinds of evil. And I think if that was what they were wanting to do, was contrast these types of evil and the effects of evil on the town, that is an excellent idea to reinvigorate the franchise. But again, I think between Kills and this one, they really dropped the ball on executing it in a way that feels like Halloween.
Well, I was going to say, I think that was my biggest complaint that I told you when you came over to record. I was like, the problem is there were so many times where as I was getting more engaged with Corey's storyline, and saw it taking more of a central focus in the film, I kept thinking, this just isn't Halloween, though.
Yeah.
Halloween is not a deep dive into the mythos of evil. Or it's like, yes, to a degree, that was necessarily the highbrow, I think, what they were trying to achieve with this trilogy, and they didn't. But more so, the reason they didn't was because it got too bloated.
Yeah.
With regards to trying to throw in the other stuff that is traditionally Halloween. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to see Michael Myers terrorizing people by coming out of the shadows, or even just doing his traditional walking and knowing he's going to get his prey regardless. We want to see that and him completely committing mass murder. I mean, that's what a Halloween film is. Well, and we didn't get any of that.
And I think they also tried to, like, even though all three of these movies obviously are connected and do have some connecting themes, I do think they try to keep things a little too standalone. Like the first one, like you could watch the first one completely by itself.
Yes. Yep.
You don't have to watch anything else. It stands on its own. Now, Kills does lead into ends a little bit more, but still, it is kind of also has a bit of some self-contained. And I think if they wanted to do this exploration of like these types of evil and the town paranoia, they should have introduced both in the very first movie and carried it. Corey could have been introduced in the first movie. You could have seen the build up with how Michael's killing people, and it creates the paranoia that carries through to Kills. That even you could have had the culmination of the mob in Ends. The way Ends actually ends with the whole town together at the end of the movie. I've said "in" like too many times now. But anyways, that ending of the movie with them all together, you could have kind of had that culmination of the mob that leads to what they did, and that would have made more sense than how they did it in Kills.
And that was
the
thing.
Separately.
The climax at the end of Kills was not only way too overdone. I mean, it was completely just off the wall, crazy and ridiculous that any person, especially someone you're describing as just a man in this one, could even survive what he did. And the fact that the way Kills ends is what sends Michael Myers off into hiding and somehow, healing his wounds over time. Like, it just didn't make any sense that it was like, okay, and then supposedly it's been 4 years and he's now still only got so much of his strength. And I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. You don't just go off as a hermit and survive. You just go off and wither and die if you were that badly beaten. Oh, yeah. And he was
surviving off homeless people. I don't know.
Well, yeah, they allude to that.
He drags them in, every now and then he drags a body in and they never come back out. Which also is like, where's all the bodies in there? When they show the inside,
he's a cannibal now, I guess.
It's a pretty barren sewer.
Well,
so
that's
the
thing. He never eats. They only show him literally like as he's killing people. That's where he gets his nourishment from, or he's healed again. I mean, again, there's so many different takes that are not Halloween, and then also things that I'm like, okay, this would have not been a terrible story had you not been juxtaposed against the story you're trying to tell of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode.
Yeah,
and that's the blending that they don't get right, and it doesn't mesh right.
Like all of the main characters introduced throughout the three movies all pretty much take a back seat to Corey, which again, the story they tried to tell with Corey is interesting, but the fact that you threw him into the final movie, it's the first time you learn about him and he's introduced, and all the other characters you've been with throughout the first two movies now play pretty minor roles. You're just kind of like, why is this a satisfying conclusion for Jamie Lee Curtis when really she's not that significant a role throughout most of the movie?
Well, and honestly, I think one of the worst parts and worst scenes in the movie is with Corey, and he literally wrestles Michael.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell is... And he takes his mask from him.
How did you just wrestle? Like,
so bad.
We've seen so many inhuman feats that Michael has done that I'm like, how does just this nerdy little dude wrestle this guy to the ground and steal his mask.
Okay, and
It's
that's
just
the
dumb.
one through line that they've had throughout this whole trilogy that I've not appreciated or liked, just because I thought it was a little bit too. It was fine in the first movie and just Halloween. I didn't like it in the way they've displayed it throughout the course of the trilogy, and that's the fact that it's like the mask gives him power.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I loved that it evoked emotion from Michael or Stirring
in the original
when they hold it up at the the prison, and that's what gets him aggravated and agitated.
And he's like, I'm going to take that back. And
right.
And I don't know if I take it so much as it gives him his power, but this huge obsession and the symbolicness they put into it, because obviously then Corey becomes obsessed with it. And I'm like, but why?
Exactly.
Like, it makes sense for Michael, I guess, to be attached to it. But for Corey to be like, I need this to go.
It's like he needs to
be evil, like
to dress up like Michael and symbolize it.
Yeah.
And that was... I'm sorry, but that's the other problem too.
I was actually okay
Throughout
when he
most
has the
of
scarecrow mask on, like the
Yes,
first killing. I was
that
okay
was
with that
fine.
because I'm like, okay,
He's imitating what he sees, but he's not. Well, and that was my other problem is
they should have gave him a William Shatner mask.
Oh, that would have been funny.
Just that's what it's based off of. It was like, it'd been great.
But there's so much of the killing done from Michael's perspective as Corey dressed as Michael, than actually Michael Myers.
Yes.
And I hated that too because I'm like, no, I don't want to see homeboy who's faking it.
I don't want to see Corey Cunningham.
No, I don't.
It's not scary. Michael Myers is scary.
There were just so many. I mean, it pissed me off because we were talking about it during the review. So many different directions they could have gone with this movie. So much potential into making. I mean, the very opening scene, I kept thinking, wow, there's no way this could be bad. This was actually really well done, and the way it evokes like, the terror of this town surrounded by years without Michael, that every single crime that comes across in the town,
was great.
it's like they keep thinking, like all the townspeople are always like, was this Michael Myers? And they're like, no, this is a gunshot wound. He doesn't use guns.
Literally, that first half hour
so
I did.
well done.
I thought it was really good. There are moments in the movie that like you can watch and think, okay, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride actually do understand what makes Halloween scary and interesting. But I think they just got lost in this narrative and their own ideas, thinking that they were so clever that those ideas had to be put into these movies. And I think
it's like they kept forgetting the anchor was Michael.
Yes.
They kept forgetting that throughout the entire series.
And I think that's something with Hollywood in general, like that little bit of pretentiousness that it's all or nothing. It's like either we're going to give you an exact rehash of what you love and fans will complain because they don't want, A New Hope 2.0,
right?
But then they'll give you Last Jedi and be like, well, now fans hate it because it's nothing like Star Wars. It's like, exactly, like you're missing the point. We don't want a rehash, but at the same time, it still has to be organic to the world you've already created.
Yes.
And Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends isn't really organic to Halloween.
It's not.
I mean, it has interesting ideas. And I would have loved to see those explored in a way that would have been organic to Halloween, because I think it could have made a good movie. But as is, it's just, I think, a little bit too much of Danny McBride and David Gordon Green thinking, our ideas are so brilliant that they just, if people don't like it, well, that's on them.
Right. Well, and again, trying so hard, I think, to be... It's weird. It's almost like they tried too hard to be taken to have Halloween and Michael Myers taken seriously or more seriously.
Yes.
But also, I mean, and I criticized this way back when we reviewed the first movie, but when we did Halloween 2018, it was like, okay, even to the point where Michael's literally stepping on a head and crushing it.
That's not Halloween.
It was exactly. It was filled with moments where I'm just like, okay, again, this is a little bit too much and too over the top. And there were just like certain things I was forgiving with in the first movie, hoping they would iron out, but no, they just kind of progressively got worse in terms of amplifying the ridiculous nature, whether it be in kills or ends. I am probably also going against the grain in saying that I still think ends is better than Halloween Kills.
Actually, I don't
know.
I think the
most
general
people,
critical consensus is, well,
I don't know, because if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, I think this one
yeah.
is terrible. And even this one actually has, I think, an unfavorable audience score, whereas I think Kills may...
No, I think you're right. I know this one has an unfavorable audience score. And some of that I would attribute to the themes that we appreciate, audiences just not caring about. It's like I can give ends because I do appreciate some of the things they tried to do. Audiences...
Actually, it's about the same. So 39% critic score for Halloween Kills, 66% audience score for Kills. Whereas Halloween Ends... If it pops up, there we go. 39%, so hovering around the exact same, but 57. So it's slightly lower in terms of audience score, just enough to make it rotten.
I really get that. The minute that you no longer make Michael your central killer, most audiences are gonna tune out, whether some of the themes are interesting or not. Nobody was going to go into this movie and accept the fact that Michael is just a very minor player throughout the whole movie.
And of course, the 2018 Halloween, 79% critic and 71% audience. So actually, audiences favored it less than critics.
Yeah.
But again,
and I see that too. I can see that.
I can, but I also think so many people were hyped to see this franchise. I mean, look, everybody knows the route that slasher flicks. I mean, that's what this all stems from. Everybody knows the route slasher flicks took when they became... I mean, Michael was the OG. He was the original and launched Freddy and launched Jason and launched a massive franchise for each and every single character.
Well, I mean, that's the genesis of slasher horror films originates with the original Halloween, yeah.
So the fact that he's the original, but yet we got all the crappy ones with... I know you don't mind 4, 5, and 6.
No, not 6. I don't mind 4. Right. I don't mind 4 or 5.
6 is the child. Like
that's the Cult of Thorn. Yeah, the Cult of Thorn one. Yeah, that one is
was really bad.
The only thing fun about 6 is the fact that Donald Pleasance is still in it, and it also has Paul Rudd. But other than that,
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's
Paul Rudd.
It's one of his first roles. Yeah.
Oh wow! I do have to go back and watch that.
He plays a. It's funny. He plays I think Tommy Doyle as an older.
Oh
Tommy Doyle. Yeah.
Wow! They should have brought him back for Halloween Kills
instead of Michael Anthony. Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah.
Oh, that would have been awesome. But no, but the thing is we got so many bad ones. Then you had Halloween H2O, which thought, oh, this is a return. No,
and even Halloween H2O,
it's terrible.
Better. It's better, but it's not great.
It's not. And this it's centered too much around teen.
Halloween
angsty
H2O had that 90s slasher style because Scream had come out and been popular.
Jump scares galore.
So H2O kind of mimicked Scream, which is funny because Scream was making fun of that type of thing.
Exactly, and it truly was. It was it was exactly what Scream was making fun of. But then you had. Then it divulged rapidly into just terrible, whether you had Halloween Resurrection with Busta Rhymes. Then you have Halloween and Halloween 2, Rob Zombie. Just absolutely god-awful.
And it was just, Halloween 2018 was nice because it felt like a return to something that was more aligned with the classic.
So people were hyped. Yeah. We wanted to return to classic Michael Myers to see the original slasher come back and actually resurrect this franchise. Yeah. To something we could uphold and say, wow, these set of movies after the original, apart from the original, are much more worth, especially with them deliberately making the choice of saying, we're not going along with Halloween 2, we're only starting with Halloween and going that route, and that's where our story picks up. And that would have been fine, but Halloween 2 is way better than kills and ends.
Yeah. That's what's funny is as much emphasis as they finally gave Laurie in the final film. It's like, well, if you're going to make her that significant, you might as well have just continued on from 2, because let's face it, like
they couldn't have him survive 2 fires.
Yeah, well,
which again, that's their problem with the Halloween.
But they could have changed that script to something else too. It didn't necessarily have to be a fire. It's one of those things where it's like. I think they just thought themselves more clever than they really were, and that seems to be the going trend with a lot of remakes and reboots these days.
Sad but true. Unfortunately,
I'm looking forward to Pearl. I've heard nothing but good things about that.
Same.
So
same. I'm looking forward to.
I actually think critically it's gotten better reviews than X, so that gives me higher hopes. So
we'll be reviewing that one next week, along with Black Adam.
I haven't seen it. I saw a quote from Scorsese who said he watched Pearl and couldn't sleep for, I think he said like a week. So I'm like, okay, well.
It's good praise. I always get tired when especially
they always quote
classic
Scorsese.
Yes.
It's like.
Well, and they always do the classic directors of like, oh, it's most, or Tarantino, oh, it's one of the best films I've ever, it is the best.
Here's the thing. I love Tarantino. I've seen his praise on other movies. I don't trust his taste in a lot of stuff.
Same. And here's the thing. No, all the love in the world for those guys giving reps to newcomers and trying to build their cred. Think it's great. They're kind of handing off the torch and trying to be hey, look, I understand I've got some clout, but I'm going to pass that along to I understand what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And more power to them.
Definitely.
But I've always hated when look, Hollywood is best at embellishing, and they do nothing but that.
They do.
I will say, I'm not holding.
Oh no, I don't care. I just thought it was funny when I saw Scorsese's name talking about Pearl, and I'm like, when would he ever like normally talk about this movie? He wouldn't, other than Hollywood has to be like, what does Scorsese think?
Well, and I'm sure he does genuinely.
I'm sure he I'm not saying he doesn't. I just think it's funny that.
Right. It's just it's the same thing to me as when you see trailers for like Smile, and it's like Rolling Stone, the scariest movie I've ever seen.
They've done the same thing.
Okay.
I remember. The 90s and early 2000s, every horror novel had a quote from Stephen King. I read this book and it was fantastic.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, okay.
Grandstanding. Okay. All right, let's move on to our headlines.
Man, it's interesting week, really. Interesting week.
Very interesting.
Rings of crap. It just ended. And now we're hearing that, and not just Amazon, but Amazon and Peacock, both, NBC, Universal, have developed, I think it's called virtual ad placement. Yeah, virtual ad placement.
No, it starts with a P. It's VPP, and I forget virtual. It's something placement.
Okay, hold on. I'll just pull that up.
We just
need
need to pull it. It's TechCrunch is the article.
Yeah, it is.
Because I do actually want to read a majority of it.
Oh no, it's fascinating.
Actually, you can just start from the top. Do you have it pulled up?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. Because we can go ahead and start from the top of it and just read it. It is very interesting. It actually might have improved Rings of Poo.
Yeah. Announced at this month's New Fronts, Amazon and which New Fronts is I was reading with Paramount. I think it did something where they come together and discuss like new like technologies and stuff like that. I thought it was
in
really
the
cool.
industry. Okay.
Yeah, for the industry and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool because I didn't know what that was. I had to Google it. Amazon and Peacock at New Fronts demonstrated new ad formats that use similar virtual product placement. That's what the VPP is.
That's it.
They use similar virtual product placement tools. A post-production technique for inserting a brand into a TV show or movie scene. Amazon presented its new VPP tool, currently operating in beta, that lets advertisers place their branded products directly into streaming content after they have already been filmed and produced. Meanwhile, Peacock's new in-scene ads will identify key moments within a show and digitally insert. And will digitally, I don't know why I'm on that, insert a brand's customized messaging or product post-production so the brand is showcased in the right TV show or movie and at the right time. So that's insane to me. So basically, like, for Amazon's, what it's sounding like is like if a dude pulls out like Silver Bullet, he's got a can of Rango beer, but if they have some deal with Budweiser, the can may look like Budweiser instead of Rango.
Right.
Like they could just change any product in the show to match whatever their advertiser wants. And I'm like,
well, I was gonna say,
so instead of the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, it'll be like
Heine Brothers.
Yeah, Heine Brothers.
Well, that's local, but
was it Scooters? Is
Scooters,
that more? Yeah,
they're a national brand too. I think they're regional. I don't know.
I just,
but
think
it's like another well, here's what
it'll
I think
be a
is
McAfee. That'll be what it is.
I think what's interesting most about this is, to me, and I think the fear I have, although I think it could be done well, and the article kind of continues on in that regard. But it is interesting that...
Well, it mentions, product placement is nothing new, which is true.
True, but the one thing that creators have spoken out of is that usually when there is a Coke can or another M&M's, something along those lines, when that shows up in a scene, that is usually discussed and planned months ahead of production, meaning the product placement deals are set in stone. They're done. That's why that product placement is showing up there. But it's interesting because they're saying now it actually gives them a little bit more freedom to kind of have almost a blank canvas in certain aspects that they could fill in, basically, whether it's due to the highest bidder or whether they say, hey, we're going to target these advertisers, and whoever ends up paying can get their ad put on this Coke can or up on a billboard, in a city shot. And it may be for a brief few seconds, but if it's portrayed in a positive light, and it also helps production because it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about getting this approved.
They said another benefit is that it helps remonetize things that are like, obviously, like, okay, you look at something that came out on Netflix. I'm trying to think of an original that's come and gone, like House of Cards. Once that buzz has died down and nobody's really rewatching it, they're not making money off House of Cards anymore. But if you can remonetize and be like, well, you could put your branding whatever you want. Anybody who rewatches House of Cards, that branding will be in there, and that helps these streaming services gain a little bit more money off of an older product.
Well, and you think about it in terms of even people who want to buy that ad space, it benefits them in the sense of saying, well, I'm going to buy this show over here. It's cheaper because it's not as popular right now, and yet our ads will still get shown, and it's people still continue to go back and watch.
Yeah.
But
I see the benefits. My fear is, like with so much other things, because we've seen plenty of times when product placement is so blatantly obvious that it takes you out of the experience. My fear is, if misused, you're going to have these blatant products like in your face.
Like anything that Hollywood does, it does it in excess.
Yes.
And so it's like, if we can do one billboard here, well, why not somebody like Spider-Man flying through Times Square, and we have all of these green screen like Times Square.
It's like Coca-Cola, M&M's, Hershey.
Here's the thing: if you go back and watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Mans, they definitely have those placed in there, no doubt.
But
they're very
But
obvious.
knowing how to also make it fit in, because obviously, if you in real life there's ads and billboards with it, so you can get away with scenes like that.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, I'm trying to think of something more blatant that we've laughed at in the past.
Well, I think of the movie that actually makes fun of it. Intentionally does it, something like Talladega Nights.
Oh yeah,
where they blatantly make ads.
Big red bubble gum. F you.
Exactly. And it's like I think that's funny because they're intentionally making fun of product placement, and no doubt it's become. It would almost be ironic and funny to see a movie that makes fun of it, and then the actual product that they're making fun of continues to evolve and change.
I just thought of one. Obviously, the end of Iron Man, he wants an American cheeseburger, and it's Burger King, and everybody laughs at that scene because it's like he wants.
Nobody chooses Burger
it's like
King.
I've been in a cave for months, and I want an American burger. I want to go to Burger King. No, but now it's like if you rewatch that scene on Disney Plus. I mean, they don't have this yet that we know of. I'm sure Disney will, but it's like you could go back and watch that scene, and instead of Burger King, you might have a Wendy's bag or a McDonald's bag.
Right. No, you're dead on, and it's funny because obviously we know that this is the extent to which they're pushing this. Which I'll let you continue to read the article. I'm not sure where you left off exactly.
Let me unlock my Apple. Which
they just introduced new iPads.
Yeah,
you could get a new one.
So, anyways, let me see where I was at.
Sure.
And here, I scrolled way down there. There we go. So
there's ads all over it.
Like as I was saying, there is. Product placement is nothing new and has long been a holy grail of the advertising industry. In 2019 alone, product placement in the U.S. garnered about $11.44 billion.
That's huge.
Yeah, per Statista data. That same year, approximately 49% of American viewers took action after seeing product placement in media, which means we saw something like in product placement and thought, I want to go buy that. I tell you what, I've never done that with Iron Man and Burger King, but anytime I see someone drinking coffee or drinking bourbon or wine, like any of those three things, I immediately want a bourbon, wine, or a coffee.
Oh, yeah, Mad Men. I can't tell you how many times I watched freaking Mad Men, and I was like, give me my Woodford.
I do understand. It's like you see somebody doing it, it's like, man, I want that.
Well, and real quick, just to piggyback off that, think about it in terms of when your brand is so well known, that you just associate it. If you see them drinking a Coke, a carbonate, which this is going to get into our vices segment in a little while.
We will.
But when you're seeing them drink a carbonated beverage, you don't even have to put a name on it. It could be that you automatically assume it's Coke. But what happens if the way the camera angle is set, you see them drinking, and out of focus in the background is a Pepsi symbol? You know, your brain is going to associate without even thinking about it. Subconsciously, you're going to want Pepsi.
Yeah.
That's the way these things work. And if they're crafty about it in certain ways, and they do it, I think, to the justice of not overtly.
Sometimes you have to lure an alien into your house with Reese Pieces. Makes me want Reese Pieces.
Exactly. No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Hey, M&M's had their chance. They turned that movie down, and Reese's made bank.
I bet you. Hey, there may come a cut nowadays
where
it's M&M's.
Yeah.
If
it's on Amazon or Peacock, Actually, Peacock, Universal. It is a Universal movie.
There you go. There you go.
They're going to have M&Ms and E.T.
It's going to happen.
Anyways, it says, however, the strategy is outdated and products used in the content, for instance, a can of Coke on a table, are decisions that are made months in advance. Streaming services are rethinking this technology, and using virtual product placement allows the platform to introduce new ads in the future and remonetize a piece of content over and over. In an illustrative video, Amazon demonstrated how its new VPP program enables brands to strategically, insert products post-production into content streaming from Amazon Prime Video and the newly rebranded Amazon Freevee. The video shown at New Fronts had an M&M's billboard pictured above that was, well, you can't see the ad, my bad. That was, if you put it in front of me, I will read it.
Yeah, well, go ahead and describe it. I mean, does it describe it?
There's a,
you gotta see it.
Actually, well, I can show if you see it there, that billboard.
Okay. So they're walking down the street.
That's a clip of a video, and
it shows
the side of the building. There's an ad, and it's a bunch of M&Ms that was digitally put in there. That wasn't originally what was on whatever that board is. So it is interesting. I would hope. Obviously, that was as an example. I do hope it's less blatant than that because that's very obvious.
I was going to say, especially in that screenshot, it's kind of, I hate to say, it's kind of askew, and you can kind of tell it's poorly digitally added.
Yes, but again, this was just this isn't an actual Amazon show. This
Right.
was just them showing off. This is what it could be used for.
Yep.
So, anyways, meanwhile, Peacock's okay, read that. Here we are. The video shown at New Fronts had an M&M billboard that was originally added way after the show had been filmed. Oh, so it was an actual show, but it was still an example. So hopefully the finished product does look cleaner than that.
And it might look bad just because it's a screenshot.
And again,
it may have been something I didn't pay attention to.
This is just an example.
Or I might have just been like, well, damn, there's some M&Ms right there on that board.
Yeah.
Like,
so anyways, Colleen Aubrey, Senior Vice President, Advertising Products and Tech at Amazon, explained to the audience, working with content creators and using machine learning, we're able to insert products and branded findings into a TV show or movie. Billboards, signs, and screens in any chosen show can now have specific messaging on the streamer. Amazon will now be able to integrate different products into episodes at different moments and scenes. She added that the M&M's virtual product placement drove an almost 7% increase in brand favorability, and so they actually did test this, okay, and a 15% increase in purchase intent. So whatever this show is, whoever watched it apparently went and bought M&M's afterwards. So it worked.
Yeah, well, 7%.
See, people,
increase.
you're what's wrong. Hollywood keeps doing dumb shit because we keep falling for it.
Well, no, but that's the thing.
It's brilliant. I mean, hey.
They're only following what the people want.
I know.
I mean, look, there's one thing I learned from Mad Men, and it was like there was a guy arguing with Don Draper, and he was just like, advertising doesn't work. And he's like, well, if it doesn't, then quit buying stuff.
Yeah.
And it's basically like him saying, look, he's like, I'm not, you don't have to argue with me. He's like, you're not my market. He's like, you're not my target.
The proof's in the pudding.
That's right.
Man. I mean, yeah.
It's just this hubris of, advertisement doesn't work. It's like bull crap. And most of the time, I learned this too when I took there was an advertising course in college. Most of the time, they target people who are already a fan of the brand. They're not targeting people to try to win. I mean, there's some part of brand marketing that's for evangelism to try to get people to come under the umbrella, but a lot of it has to do with making the people who are already associated with that brand feel good about being associated with it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Apple and their acolytes. It's like most of what they do is just allow people to love their products so much that they go out and evangelize for them.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay for that. It's free marketing.
Well, yeah. Well,
But anyways,
we used to do it for Apple all the time.
All the time.
We used to praise Apple.
Now I don't because Steve Jobs is dead.
Yeah, and Tim Cook. Tim Cook sucks.
He's a kook.
Anyways, the virtual product placement beta program has already been implemented in several Prime Video and Freevee original series, such as Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, which that might be what that screenshot was of. Is it Bosk or Bosch? Bosch Legacy, the overall Bosch franchise, Reacher, and Leverage Redemption. So, I mean, I
do love the fact that, of course, the one streaming service that is going to be a forefront for this is Amazon. Of course. It's like they own our lives. Well, it's either them or Meta.
Well, why wouldn't
Meta
Amazon
owns all our
think
data?
Of all the crap they
Amazon
sell.
just sells everything, and they're just going to try to funnel everything.
Think about that. It's
literally,
like,
people are not going to be surfing the web and movies anymore. They're just going to be surfing a web page, and it's going to be what they're buying on Amazon. Yeah. And they're going to be like, "Oh, I love this character, and they're buying this. I mean, I'm going to go buy it now on Amazon."
It's kind of brilliant. It's like you watch an Amazon show, see one of these digital product placements. think, I want that. Hop on Amazon and buy it.
Oh, well, and I can already tell you, and this has already taken shape in terms of over the air, just for over the air, not cable. There's ATSC 3.0 is a new standard that just came out for TV. It's already launched in our Louisville market. It's launching around the U.S. It's a new standard, but it actually allows for the integration of certain things within, like from an over-the-air signal, which means you don't have to have a cable box. You have an antenna, and if you have an antenna with an ATSC 3.0 tuner either on the TV end or hooked up to the TV, you'll have stuff like, for instance, you go to, WOKY, WDRB, a new like Fox or NBC, whatever station, they'll have ad or a pop-up come up on the screen where it allows you to look at news headlines. It'll look up, and I guarantee you what they're going to build in eventually are going to be ads that if when you see a commercial play, it triggers a pop-up ad and be like, hey, you see this Downy commercial? You can buy that right now. Just click OK on your TV.
And I do wonder
and
a
you
little
can
bit.
immediately purchase. Same thing with streamers. They're going to eventually have these ads to where while you're watching the show, you can click a button on your remote or on your controller that will buy the product you see on the screen immediately.
Yeah. And Peacock is a little bit like it says right here. Peacock also announced their own digitally inserted ad strategy at New Fronts. The new in-scene ads are designed to strengthen commercial opportunities with marketing partners, seamlessly blending products and/or messaging with content during post-production to insert advertisements during scenes that are deemed relevant to customers. So theirs is a little bit different, but I mean, that's what you were talking about reminds me of what they're going with a little bit in that here's this scene where,
Well, think about it. You have a movie about Michael Jordan, and he's the greatest of all time. And it's like, we already know, of course, with Jordans, they branded with Nike.
Yeah.
But let's say that he's competing against somebody that has given him maybe the hardest challenge that he's ever faced, and it was some unknown story and they were telling, and this person wore Adidas, and you want to be as close to Mike as you can be, but you may not be Mike, but you can be close to him, or you can give him one hell of a competition, and subliminally you just see and notice he's wearing Adidas, and it's like now you go out and it's just subliminally you click on an Adidas shop and go and purchase a pair of, whether it be sneakers or a jumpsuit or a tracksuit, whatever it is. I mean, that's it. Like you even just said with Starbucks. You see two characters that you love sitting there conversing and joking around, and you see they're just at a coffee shop, and it happens to be Starbucks. I'm immediately going to go to that shop.
Well, the way that Peacock sounds like, okay, maybe you're watching a show and they're at Starbucks, and then you know how like they have their ad-supported version, it cuts to ads. You watch them scene with Starbucks, the very next ad Starbucks. Because it says John Jelly, SVP of Product and UX at Peacock, said, the majority of Peacock customers are opting for our ad-supported experience. He said, and we remain focused on collaborating with our brand partners to develop innovative, personalized ad experiences that continue to enhance the customer experience.
Yeah.
So rather than brands inserting product placement into scenes, Peacock's kind of taking this route of, well, whatever show or movie's on that has something relevant within the brand, when we cut to an ad, well, then that brand, that's going to be the ad we also pop up. So and that makes sense because you get that subliminal and then you get the ad.
The hard
thinking,
cut.
oh, I just saw that in the show. I want that.
Right. That's genius. Well, and here's the thing. I actually think of it in the opposite way. I would prefer, and this is going to be down the road, we're talking probably 5, 6, 7 years, because obviously on a consumer side of things, this will become, I think, I don't want to say a watered down version, but it'll have to become so well done and implemented that it becomes easy technology to advance or to, I don't want to say imitate, but I would say adopt.
Yeah.
Adopt across the board to other types of platforms. I think of YouTube. I think of Rumble. I think, what if you gave creators who have enough of a following? I mean, you already have it in terms of brands who will go and outright buy promotional space on certain YouTube or content creators, websites, YouTube pages, Twitter, Instagram, especially Instagram's huge for this, for like girls and makeup and whatnot. But I think about it in terms of, if you give me an alternative to not only have an ad play before a show, they already have some, like they have YouTube pops up with banners on videos. I can't stand them. They're intrusive. They're annoying. But if you have the ability for content creators to maybe film, a backdrop with a certain cutout, and that cutout will be like an ad will actually be generated in place of that cutout that YouTube wants to put there, that the viewer, it's not intrusive, it blends in. It's maybe even the content creator has ways in which it can blend into the environment so that it's not, oh my gosh, this is an eyesore, but it keeps me from having to watch a YouTube video where an ad plays in the middle of while I'm listening to some instructional video on how to change an oil filter or how to cook an egg. I don't know. But it's like you're in the middle of an instructional video and then all of a sudden, boom, it just cuts to an ad and it's literally 2 15-second ads. And you think, okay, no, 30 seconds isn't killer when it comes to TV, but at least in TV, I know when they wrap up because they're going to break. It's a nice finish. When you just interject it immediately into, like, you cut me off, it pisses me off more than anything.
Well, even like the early days, and I'll say I've not encountered this as a problem now with any of the streaming services that have ads, but I know in some of the early days, like the ad wouldn't come in where the show fades to black. It would actually cut a few seconds early or a few seconds late, so it would cut the scene, and then after the ads, it would pick back up in the scene, then it would fade to black, and then fade back into the scene. It's like terrible. Now I would say I know both Peacock and Paramount because I have ads.
They finessed it.
I was like they actually when like I know watching I said that 70 show on Peacock, when it fades to black, that's when Peacock's ad is, and then it comes back. So it's actually
and another thing that YouTube
now
does that pisses me off is there will be times where literally I'll click on a video. And it will play 5 seconds of the video, and I'm gearing up for.
Oh, then it goes.
And then it cuts to an ad, and I'm like, why didn't you just start with the ad? At least then I know that I before you start teasing me with the content, and it just cuts in the middle. Or the other day, I was literally watching a music video, and right in the middle of the music video, there's an ad, and I'm like, you just took me out of the music.
And you know what? I like Paramount, like for shows, like they're in like where the cuts should go, but for like movies, I've noticed Paramount actually will give you, instead of doing like two 30-second ads in between, they'll do like a full like minute and a half thing before the movie, but then the movie plays. And I love that. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you have to sit through like a minute of ads, but at least the entire movie is uninterrupted. And I like that. I think that's much better.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway from talking about this. I would be inclined to say this is an advancement moving forward now that technology has caught up with it. Because, look, they're always going to be trying to find ways to, especially this is going to benefit nothing but the bigger brands at first. But I do see this as an evolution of advertising such that we can maybe get moving towards implementing watching content without having to be that's so intrusive of just cutting to a commercial
break.
Depending
on how it's implemented,
right?
Yeah, this could actually be better. Yes,
it could be better, but also we know too it could be very disruptive in terms of the content and in terms of because you're not going to be watching. I mean, joked around about Rings of Pooh. Yeah, I do think ads would have probably helped it. I mean, if freaking, well, actually, no, it probably would have made me mad. If Galadriel popped open some Skittles, I would have been pissed at Skittles for sponsoring it.
I just can see they open that box and instead of Mithril, it's like Payday or something in there. It's like what's in there? And
it's
just
$100 grand. Oh, no, it's a freaking Pete Davidson advertising Taco Bell breakfast.
Oh gosh,
crunch wrap thingy.
Or the crunch thingy. Yeah.
But no, I think it has potential.
Hollywood sucks.
They do. It has potential to not be disruptive, but even they bring up at the very end of the article how they're hoping this catches on, and for other streamers like Netflix who are obviously bringing about their ad-supported tier rapidly with the onslaught of decreasing viewership and decreasing, subscriptions.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I'm like, I could see Netflix not only benefiting from this, but them being one of the first ones to adopt it.
Yeah.
And again, if it's implemented correctly, just like I don't mind, like you said, if I'm watching ads on a free movie, but I'm doing it a minute and a half knowing I will not be interrupted throughout the movie.
That's still less ads than you'd get on television.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And it'd be worth it to watch a free movie.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. But if you're going to be so overpowered in terms of if I can tell every scene we cut to, there's some kind of sponsorship ad, then it's like, okay, again, this is interrupting the content and the message. And I think you'll have staunch, content creators, whether it be in the, online sphere,
there's definitely
or
gonna be those that
David Fincher, Martin Scorsese, Tarantino, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, they're
you're
gonna
gonna have
refuse
these who
any
are like,
type of blatant-
absolutely
yeah.
not. We're not doing this. I will pay. I mean, you'll have moments where it's like, doesn't matter, they're paying for this.
Yeah.
But I do think it also breeds, like they did mention, extra life into older content where those things can just be added in later. It'll be funny to see how it gets implemented, because I think, again, this kind of does go back into the gray area of, like we brought up on the show before, even with censorship.
Changing
'cause
I'm
content.
literally just thinking about that because I was like, well, what about like an '80s movie? Like, I mean, like you put RoboCop. It's like, obviously you can't have an ad from like 2022. At least like Eminem's logo and characters look different in the '80s than they look now.
Yep.
It's like you're not going to throw modern M&Ms on a billboard in RoboCop because it's going to be way out of place unless they go through the trouble of making them look like the '80s branded version.
And here's the thing, and I think over time they can get that creative, but it irks me when they're sitting here thinking, and granted, they're probably not doing content like that, but
no, I mean,
right, but I agree with you.
But maybe one day, it's
right.
Like, that's the thing. That's the problem with people. I mean, we can't leave well enough alone. We just have to see how further we can make things worse.
They're being blatantly honest about the fact that, you know, they're choosing content today that can fit into, you know, certain shows and movies that are already produced. But it is interesting. It's like, yeah, but how far does it go? You know, to the extent of saying, yeah, that I remember this scene and I remember they were wait a sec. Those aren't Sun Chips anymore. That's Doritos. Like, that's weird. Like, it just is. It's a kind of manipulation to it, to such a.
Well, again, we were just making
degree.
the joke about E.T., and it's like, okay, it's an iconic scene now that he uses the Reese pieces, but it's like, and granted, the outcome would be the same if it was M&M's, but still, it's kind of like, it's weird that it's like, you specifically know those were originally Reese pieces.
And I think what concerns me is they say a lot of this is up to machine learning.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Well, they want to curate ads for the people watching it as well.
And that makes sense. Like, I do understand.
Well, the internet already does that. When you get pop-up ads
think about
stuff
it.
that
If you're
based on your
watching something
cookies.
on Prime,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
immediately going to know your
They
purchase
know
history.
everything you
They
want.
know
Oh,
immediately
man.
what they're going to put in there. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that because you've signed up for them to do that by electing to use their service.
Yeah.
I have a problem with, is it going to be oddly added to such a degree that you don't have like an editor on the back end? I mean, literally, if they have green screens and they're like, well, we're going to throw this ad in there, or we're going to cut it. It's like, if you don't have someone who's curating it and touching it up to make it look like it fits in the scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, we haven't even seen the show that they reference there with the M&M's
But the
billboard.
M&M's looked a little too obvious to me. And again, we're all looking at a clip. Maybe within the scene itself, I wouldn't have
may
noticed.
not look bad. But I have watched Spider-Man 2 and 3, and there are definitely times where he's swinging through Times Square, and they no doubt did it on purpose. And granted, technology's come a long way since then. Plenty of CG does not look that great back in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so funny to see.
There's plenty of times watching those movies now where I'm like, that's a completely fake Spider-Man.
Oh,
but
no
you
doubt.
know,
But it's funny to see him
I don't
flying
knock
through
things
Times
for
Square.
the limitations of their time.
No, of course not. But it's funny to see him flying through Times Square and to see all these ads, and it's like, you know, they deliberately chose the scene to be like, look at how much we can pile.
Product placement.
But then it's also funny too, because and Apple does this especially. It's funny to see when there's certain products where the labeling is obscure, simply because it's almost like they put it there. Maybe they worked out a deal, and then after production was already over and whatnot, they reneged, and it was like, oh, nope, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
We don't want to pay for this. So you'll see like a literal legitimate Apple laptop where the Apple logo has been either a stickers over it, or it'll be completely blank, and they've gone in and digitally covered it up, simply because.
What is it that Nickelodeon, or was it? I think it was Nickelodeon. They had like the pear thing, like they had the little pear logo on the back of the computers and stuff.
Well, that was kind of they. I think they did that more for mocking
it was for comedy, but I could just okay.
It was iCarly.
Well, I think they had several shows that actually not just iCarly around that era that all used it, and I think it was intentional.
Well, and honestly, almost like Grand Theft Auto does it.
Yes,
with the apple bottom.
Yes,
it looks like an apple, but it has like. It's like a big butt.
Yes,
they do it.
And granted, that's intentionally, but I could just, obviously, I could see the same type of thing. It's like, oh, we don't have this now; we need to change it to something else.
But it is funny that when you do see those things where it's like, okay, Apple knows they don't associate their products necessarily with that type of marketing.
Yeah.
They'll every once in a while do it, or you'll even have shows that just give it free advertising in general, and they're not going to, like, I think it would take a lot for Apple to come out and be like, no, we don't want to be associated in that regard.
Yeah.
More than likely, it's mostly the production side saying, no, we're not, or I would even say the EP saying, no, we're not going to advertise Apple products because they're not paying for advertising, so we're not going to give them any branding, even though they have iconic products that you can tell deliberately what it is.
I mean, I think it is fascinating, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes and how much we do or don't notice it in the future. Because, again, it could, like many things, it could be used poorly or it could be used well. It just really depends. Hollywood just doesn't have, like you said, they don't have any reservations about anything. They're full force all the time on every dumb idea. So
and like with anything, new technology, or especially like you said with Hollywood, growing pains, and we will see lots of terribly placed ads, and I cannot wait for meme Twitter or meme Instagram, or there's going to be memes all over the place of just like, did you see this? And I guarantee you it'll be some rough patches.
I quote it way too much, but it's humanity always, and that's the Jeff Goldblum, you were too busy worried about whether or not you could that you never stopped to think whether or not you should. And that's humanity in a nutshell. They just always we gotta go. We gotta figure out if we can.
There it is. All right, let's move on to our vices.
Yeah.
Speaking of sponsorships, we would love nothing more than to be sponsored by a wonderful
sponsor us.
Coke brand.
Coke.
So what's your favorite Coke, Keith?
Specifically Coke or any carbonated beverage? Because while
we're going to talk about that.
Because we do refer to every carbonated soda here
in Kentucky
as Coke.
It's a southern thing.
But yeah, but
I specifically
you have soda. You got sody pop. You got pop. You got
yeah. I intentionally put it this way simply because, of course, being from Louisville, and it's the same thing we call everything
Louisville,
Coke.
Not Louisville.
You
not Louisville,
ask
Louisville.
That's right, Louisville. When somebody asks you, "What do you want to drink?" and you say a Coke, their response should be what kind. Doesn't mean you want a Coke, not a Coca-Cola. Because it could be several different kinds of carbonated beverages. That's what. Now, here's the thing: if you
go to a restaurant and they have different carbonated beverages, and I say Coke, obviously I'm referring to whatever brown beverage. And that's funny because they'll be like, "Is Pepsi all right?" And it's like, "Well, yeah." I get it, but I always hate that question because I'm like, either one. It's brown and it's carbonated. Like, obviously, if I wanted the cherry variety, I'd say cherry. If I wanted a citrus Mountain Dew-esque, I would say Mountain Dew or Mellow Yellow. But yeah.
Well, and it's funny because when
Coke
usually
is that generic
they just
brown
ask
carbonated
what to
beverage.
drink.
Yeah.
They ask, and then I say a Coke, and then that's when they say, "Is Pepsi fine?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." Because that is Coke.
One day just went back. No, damn it! I said a Coke. Go find me one.
It's not all right. But no,
So,
I really brought this up because I was like, of all the Vices topics we've had, I was like, something as simple as like our favorite Coke has never been brought up.
It's funny because for me, it's always kind of like it changes with the seasons and my mood. But generally, I always fall back on just standard Coca-Cola Classic.
Agreed.
More
So
often
good.
than not Coke Zero, and that's just because I don't like to drink carbs and calories now. I try to save calories for other things, but I mean, I would prefer just plain Coke over Zero, but I do like Zero. So
I like all the Coke. I like Coke Zero.
I love
like
vanilla
Diet
Coke.
I like cherry Coke. Cherry Coke is far superior to freaking cherry Pepsi. Far superior.
I don't know about that.
Cherry
Coca-Cola
Pepsi is trash. Cherry Coke is where it's at.
Coca-Cola is
the only
superior
one.
to Pepsi, I agree. Wild Cherry Pepsi, though.
Nope.
Now, when it comes to
I do go in phases.
When it comes to vanilla, nothing beats vanilla Coke. I love vanilla. I don't even think Pepsi makes vanilla anymore. That's how badly Coke beat them.
It's funny because I'm actually not a fan. I don't mind vanilla Coke. I'll drink it, but I'm not.
Well,
it's
you
not
have to
something I go
like
out of my
vanilla.
way.
Yeah.
But no, when it comes to cherry,
the vanilla orange that Coke did was good too. It's like an orange dreamsicle Coke.
Yeah.
The Coke with coffee. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Although they Coca-Cola Black
I know it was better.
Was better than
but still,
Coke with coffee.
The Coke plus coffee is good. It's still better than Pepsi's coffee thing. Are they still doing that either?
I don't know.
See, Coke beat them with that, too. Because Coke with coffee you can still buy that in stores.
Well, they brought it back. And I guess it's been selling okay because they have it.
It's still, I still see it in stores. I don't ever see Pepsi's version. They brought it out at the same time.
I will say with regular Coke, while I'm a Coke guy, classic Coke. While I tend to go that route, every once in a while I get a hankering for Pepsi. Pepsi is sweeter to me.
Pepsi has a what I like about Pepsi is it has more of a bite, which sounds weird. It's like I don't know if it's more carbonated what it is, but it has a little bit of that.
See, I don't get that.
Yeah, it has more of a
it's
spike
just
to the tongue than Coke.
See, to me, Coke has that. Coke has it's a crisp, but
yes.
it's like it's very
See,
like
I feel like
especially a cold
Pepsi
Coke.
is normally like the spikier to me.
That's
yeah.
odd. That's different.
But I prefer
Yeah.
Coke. I don't know. Most people I talk to feel that way about Pepsi.
I've always thought of it as sweeter, and that's the reason why I'm like, well,
I guess,
to me, it's like
maybe.
if I want something that is like not candy, but
Yeah.
a dessert beverage, it's like Pepsi.
See,
is
I've
that
never
for me,
thought of it as sweeter
whereas
than
Coke is like
Yeah.
the refreshing,
Different, but not sweeter.
crisp. Like, I mean, again, they go. Maybe this is advertising working on me. They always show like back in old ads of like, hot day, I'm drinking a cold Coke.
I would
and,
prefer a Coke
so
over
good.
Pepsi, definitely.
But
I
as
do
far
like,
as my car, I mean, I go in between. I go throughout all sorts. As far as my favorite Coke carbonated beverage, it's weird because I go through phases.
I do too.
Coke is as I think number one, but just below that, it used to be Cherry Coke. No, I think now it's Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I love Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
Dr.
I don't know what it is, but it is great.
Well, that's generally how my like I said with phases. I always fall back on Coke. That's definitely the top one. But generally, I'll also go through stints of Mountain Dew or Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, Mountain Dew's good.
So Mountain Dew and so that I would say that's my trifecta is Coke, Dr. Pepper, and Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
It's about as southern redneck as you can get.
Well, it's funny because Mountain Dew, I've always associated with like teenagers and drinking like a kid because it's high caffeine.
Yeah,
and it is
which is
like,
really not any higher than Coke, but everybody has that conception.
It doesn't. I thought it has a little bit more caffeine.
I used to think that too, but it actually
What?
doesn't. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I
A
was
regular
surprised.
can
Yeah.
of Coke versus a regular can of Mountain Dew does not have more caffeine?
Yeah.
That's surprising. I thought it did. I thought Mountain Dew had
Most
more
people
caffeine.
do because that's how Mountain Dew's.
That's their advertising working.
Oh no, it does. Okay.
Ha!
Whoever told me that lied to me. Then
They are liars.
Mountain Dew is 4.5 milligrams. Coke is 2.8, so it's almost twice as much. So yeah.
There you go.
I know I do like Mellow Yellow, and I know Sean likes Mellow Yellow more
Sean,
than Mountain
if
Dew.
he was here right now, would be batting 1,000 for
but I
that.
have to admit,
Oh,
as
yeah.
much as I like Mellow Yellow, I always fall back on Mountain Dew. So I have to say, in my opinion, yeah, I like Mountain Dew. I used to not be. I would used to defend Mellow Yellow, I guess, because it's the underdog. But I always fell back on Mountain Dew. So to be honest, I have to say, obviously, I like
same
Mountain
with
Dew
like
more.
Mr. Pibb. I'm not. I like Dr.
Pibb's
Pepper
okay,
better than
but
Mr.
yeah,
Pibb.
Dr. Pibb's better. Yeah.
And Dr. Pepper is solo, right? Or are they owned by Coke?
Dr. Pepper is, I think, its own with like
Its own
like
Mr.
with 7-Up
Pibb is
in that.
Pepsi, isn't it?
Mr. Pibb is Coke.
Oh, it's Coke.
Yeah, Mr. Pibb is Coke.
Then they lost. on that one.
Mellow
Yeah.
Yellow is Coke. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In almost all aspects, I prefer Pepsi's products over Coke, except for the actual like.
Yeah,
Because Mountain Dew is Pepsi, so
Yeah.
it's like Dr. Pepper's its own. I don't think Pepsi has a Dr. Pepper.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I don't think they do. I think you're right. I don't think.
I think most of the times when stores have Pepsi products, they have Dr. Pepper, but it's not actually owned by Pepsi, so I'm not sure how that works.
And then, of course, you could always talk about. You could
well,
throw out
sometimes, like the Coca-Cola Freestyle. Sometimes I think has Dr. It always has Pibb though.
You could
'cause
throw
that's
out
owned.
some other, oddball. I mean, every once in a while, yeah, I've got a hankering for like.
I like
to me,
Big Red occasionally.
Oh, Big Red's good.
and that's its own.
I like Big Red.
Yeah.
I associate that back when I was little. It was
Oh man.
the drink where we get them on Fridays in elementary school. They'd have Coke and popcorn day, and you could buy a Coke for 50 cents.
Okay.
50 cents.
Man, I
I'm
remember
telling you,
those days.
those
Canned
were the
Coke.
days. And I bought Big Red, and would have my popcorn and Big Red. Oh, so
Big Red's just the best red cream soda. Like
It
I know,
is.
because I know like people
You're
like
right.
is it Mug and Bargs that make their own red cream sodas? They don't
Ooh,
compare.
actually, I really do like. I think it's A&W makes a cream soda,
Do they? I don't
and
know.
I
if I've
really
had
like
those.
A&W's cream soda.
They have
A&W
a cream,
has the best.
They have
root
a
beer.
cream soda that I love, but I don't know if they had a red cream soda because that's different.
What?
There's just cream soda, which is like a vanilla cream soda.
Oh, that's all that A&W has.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a difference.
Oh yeah. The red cream soda is different.
Yeah, Big Red and Big Red all the way.
Yeah.
No doubt. I've never even had another red cream soda.
I've never had this, and I've never had a desire to, but I've seen like the Big Blue, which is like some weird blue cream soda.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't understand the why.
It doesn't.
I just don't
There's
understand
not
why.
enough of a difference for
it to matter. Yeah.
Right, and I understand why they brought it out as a gimmicky. Like,
well, I
but
think you
there's
can
not as
still
much
get
of a
like
different
bottles
taste.
and gas stations, but that's it.
can.
Like literally, that's it. It's just like those little like 1 liter bottles at a gas station.
And maybe at like a super Walmart or a super Kroger, they have like that a wider selection.
I like ginger ale, Canada Dry.
Well, I was gonna say you get into the odd flavors.
Yeah,
with,
you
like,
get the ones
your lemon
that are more
lime,
specific,
like Sprite or 7-Up.
Like A&W is my go-to root beer.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are Bargs and Mug, but I'm like, nah, it's A&W.
Bargs is okay, but well, here's the thing. I would, to me, can Coke, A&W, Mug, and Bargs, any one of them. Honestly, I'd still pick A&W, but all of them are kind of equal to me. If you get A&W on tap, by hands down,
it's amazing.
It's fantastic.
They don't do that anymore.
You have to find one.
I don't.
There's no A&Ws around.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're random, like mostly partnered with Long John Silver's, but and you could still buy a gallon of A&W on tap.
I mean, it's just their carbonated fountain, but still, it tastes better.
It does. But like when you go the lemon lime route, Sprite or 7-Up, which one?
That's hard. Both are better than Sierra Mist in my opinion. My dad's favorite is Sierra Mist.
Ooh, really?
That's Pepsi's. Yeah, I don't like Sierra Mist.
Funny, we that's one that Pepsi is a loser on then.
Yeah,
as far as their separate.
I like Sprite better than Sierra Mist, but I think 7-Up's my favorite.
See, I'm a Sprite guy. I'd go Sprite, and
I like Sprite. This is funny. I know this is going to sound cliche, but McDonald's has the best Sprite.
McDonald's has the best Coke.
They do too.
They're the best fast food Coke.
Well, part of that is a lot of the water and keeping certain things clean, and just the combination of the carbonation
with the syrup.
With the syrup, yeah. And I love that. But yeah, I do think I do love McDonald's Sprite and Coke. I
guess McDonald's may have the best carbonated beverages on at their store.
Well,
as far as
apparently,
the
like
syrup and
there
the
is
carbonated water beverage, or like
a certain like ratio and settings that every McDonald's is supposed to adhere to. So which makes sense. If you know you got a good thing, you try to hold on to that good thing. I mean, they don't have anything else good anymore.
Sad but true. I would say yeah, that's true. But I will say I'm a Sprite guy. But as far as we were talking about it earlier a little bit with Coke Zero, as far as like the 0-calorie beverages, I'm gonna stick with. I used to be a Diet Coke guy. I liked the way it tasted different.
It's different. I don't mind Diet Coke.
Coke Zero still tastes different than Coke to me.
But I like Coke Zero.
But I like Coke Zero. Actually, I actually do prefer
Sprite
it
Zero.
sometimes.
I like too, and I don't really like. I hate Sierra Mist either way. But a Sprite Zero, I think actually tastes good.
Sprite.
I don't like Mellow Yellow Zero. I like Mountain Dew Zero. So that's another one up Pepsi has, but I don't like Mellow.
Here's one that I know most people will disagree with me on, but I think Mountain Dew Zero, I can tell a slight difference.
Oh, Mountain Dew Zero doesn't taste like Mountain Dew, but I still think it tastes good.
Same.
Yeah.
Agreed. And to me, it's almost like it just tastes like a watered down Mountain Dew.
It's slightly
but
different.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different, yeah.
Whereas most people disagree with me on this one. I actually do not taste the difference. I taste the difference, but it's not a bad difference. And to me, it's subtle. Between Dr. Pepper and Dr. Pepper Zero.
Oh, no. I think actually a lot of people do agree with Dr. Pepper, Big Red, and there was another one that like the Zeros taste almost dead up.
If
Big Red Zero is pretty good too. I don't know if you've had that.
Which one is it?
Big Red Zero?
No.
Tastes dead up. Not dead up. Like, again, like Dr. Pepper, there's maybe a slight, but I mean, it is pretty.
Well, and that's the thing. Even with Dr. Pepper, if I pour warm cans of Dr. Pepper and Dr. Pepper Zero into a glass full of ice, I will not be able to tell the difference. Like I said, maybe a slight difference, but it's not going to be enough of a taste that I'm going to be like, oh, I can't drink this.
Dr. Pepper Zero is, I think, really
Whereas
well
Coke
done.
and Coke Zero definitely tell a difference. Can easily taste the difference. Pepsi and Pepsi Max can tell a difference. But, I will say, too, as far as oddball flavors.
The world of Coke.
I do like
Soda Pop.
Mountain Dew Watermelon.
I do like watermelon.
It's a new flavor they just came up with. It's pretty good.
Well, it's stuck around because I guess, it just was that. It's funny because
most people will pick like Livewire or something like that.
Or Code Red. I actually do like Code Red,
Red's
but
good.
I have to be kind of in the mood for that. But yeah, it's funny of all the flavors Mountain Dew has introduced, really Code Red and Livewire are the two that have always stuck. And now, like, all these others have come and gone. The watermelon actually seems to be sticking around, too. So I think it's actually been popular
is a good
enough
thing.
that, yeah, it's been popular enough that they've kept it with.
But
all
my
the others.
final favorite Coke, and it is once a year that they bring it out, and I love it,
Yeah.
is Canada Dry Cranberry for Christmas.
Sierra Mist has a cranberry, too. I'm like, you guys are like,
Yeah, stop. Just stop. Canada Dry Cranberry for the holidays.
My dad's
my
gonna be so
gosh.
disappointed, but I can't fathom people who like Sierra Mist.
I'll drink it if it's there.
It's there,
If it's the
but-
only thing in the vending machine, I'll grab it. If I'm wanting something lemon lime,
It's just to
but-
me the clear loser
or
of the
citrus.
lemon lime flavors.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not I'll go for Sprite. That's my. Even though I know you.
I like
7
7-Up. Yeah, I like.
Now
but I mean,
7
I
Up
like both.
Cherry.
Oh, they have good. Yeah.
7 Up Cherries.
I like
on point.
both.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, the world of carbonated beverages. We didn't really come up with like our definitive is still Coke.
I mean, I just said like
a
honestly,
good classic,
my
like-
my fallback is just Coke.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes me bland or boring, but that is.
But when you want variety, throw in a Dr. Pepper, a Mountain Dew. You know those seasonal flavors, Canada
sometimes
Dry,
you just
cranberry.
get sick of all the different flavorings because I did that once. I bought I think like Mountain Dew, watermelon, and something else, and then I was like, why did I do this? Like I just want a freaking Coke.
Or like when you're a kid and you do like the suicide, which is like all of the drinks,
and then you try it when you get older, and you're like, why?
What? Because you're a kid.
Because
You're
I
like, I'm
have.
cool. I'm drinking all of them.
I mean, it's been many, many years, but I mean, I do remember being older and trying it. Be like, oh, I remember doing it as a kid. And then I'm just like, this don't taste good.
It doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But you're a kid.
I mean, it doesn't taste terrible.
That's
I
right.
can drink it, but I'm just like, why? Like,
You know. Alrighty, I think that's
don't
gonna
know.
do it. What is your all's favorite Coke out there?
you get
do
older,
y'all
and instead
like?
of mixing several flavors of Coke, you just start mixing several types of alcohol. So,
It just
You know?
it graduates
You
from one
know.
to the next. You know,
and then you just start doing
or a rum and
a
Coke.
mix of random types of drugs. I mean, you asked me what my favorite Coke was, and I responded with crack earlier. So.
It's like, well, there's
You
not
know.
very many blends.
I mean, that's really though. You got crack cocaine or just cocaine.
That's it. Well, they used to put Coke in Coke.
Yeah, yeah.
That was how it got
Well, they
its
used to
name.
use Coke for medicine, and
Yeah,
so
it's like, well,
and then they discovered things that weren't addictive and changed those to I mean, you still have addictive medications, but
well, and I'd rather them have kept the Coke, like cocaine in Coke, versus putting that high fructose corn syrup in there.
that's true.
Just saying, it's killing us all, clogging all our arteries. Give us the sugar.
I had
cane.
sometimes I have just inner monologues and conversations with myself, and I had like no, I mean I do, because like I was thinking about like maple syrup. Like I bought some syrup the other day because I wanted some waffles. I had just a hankering for waffles.
Waffles are good.
And I could make waffles, but I had no syrup because I don't really normally eat
Keep
pancakes.
syrup, yeah.
So I had to buy some syrup at the store.
Funny enough, though, syrup's one of those things where if you buy 100% pure,
That's what I did.
it has like a long shelf life. You
It
don't
does have a
really-
long
yeah.
time, and it tastes way better. Like I won't buy,
way better.
I won't buy fake syrup anymore because it's just maple flavored corn syrup.
That's all it is.
And I'm just like, you know what? That's kind of gross now that I really know it's just
Yep.
maple flavored corn syrup and actual just 100%. It's funny because on the bottle that I bought, it just says ingredients, maple syrup.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
The only ingredient. I was like, this is
The
amazing.
fewer
it does
ingredients.
cost twice as much.
Oh yeah, it does.
It's like $5 instead
But
of $2.
here's the thing too, though. You don't have to use as much.
No.
Because the freaking corn syrup is so, it's like a freaking blob, a glob of just.
Well, it's actually
corn syrup.
pure maple syrup's a little bit thinner too.
Oh, a lot thinner, and all
So-
you have to do is pour a little bit, and it's so
good.
rich that you just have
I do
enough
the same
to
thing
pour
with
on
honey.
there.
I only buy 100% pure honey too because honey flavored corn syrup isn't great either.
No.
Corn
And
syrup.
same thing. Honey lasts forever. You pretty much don't ever have to. You just keep it up there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Sometimes
it'll
it'll kind of crystallize, which is normal.
Yeah.
You put it in you could put it in a pot of like boiling water, and it'll actually it'll go back to the original texture. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I actually with natural peanut butter. You know how the oil separates.
Oh yeah.
A cool life hack is you after you open it up and kind of scoop it out, or even if
I've
you
heard
buy
that
it,
whole keep it upside down.
keep it
Yeah,
upside down,
yeah.
and then the next time you get it and you turn it right side
I
up,
have to try that.
open it up, and then you get it out. It's like all the oil goes back
100%
down.
natural peanut butter
It's a
straight.
lot of-
You know what? Things that are natural just are better,
I'm telling you, America, we've gone wrong.
and it all
We're
cost
wrong.
us twice as much.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
I know because you're putting less crap in it.
I know. It's
cost-
weird, but people buy more freaking of the junk.
Yes.
So
that's
it's
why
easier to
that's what I'm saying,
produce.
That's why it's cheaper because people buy it.
It's like if everybody just went out and started buying
that's
pure
that's
maple
one
syrup.
thing. That's why I had the inner monologue because I was thinking about 100% pure honey actually is now cheaper than it used to be because it has gained such a mass. Like I went to Walmart and that was all Walmart had on the shelf was pure honey. They didn't even have the fake crap. Like it was all 100%. And I was like, oh, nice. And it was all
there you go,
kind of priced lower. And I'm like, see, people, if you just go to mass eating the healthy stuff, it'll get cheaper.
That's right.
You got to incentivize businesses to give you the good stuff.
Exactly. We need it. All righty, guys. That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, right there at the bottom of your screen, you can email us that old-fashioned way. Tell us what your favorite Your Coic is. I'm having a stroke.
Coic.
Call me John Fetterman. What is?
Whoa!
At least I don't have to read a prompter.
Joe Biden.
Well, yeah, he can't read one either. But why don't you read it for us there, Keith? What's our Red Moon Podcast email?
Cornpop.com.
Please don't go there. I don't know what's on that website. I wonder what that URL leads to.
I'm gonna Google it later.
Somebody owns.
Somebody has Cornpop. Yeah. Our website.
Well, website's redmoonproductions.com.
We
go
do.
there too.
But our email, if you want to get in contact with us that old-fashioned way, is rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Just beautiful. Just love that. The way you say it every time.
Every time.
Chill going up my leg.
I like that just fade in. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you all so much. As always, you can also like, share, subscribe on all of our social media platforms right there at the bottom of the screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for YouTube with redmoonproductions.com. Also, join us on Rumble. Like, share, subscribe everywhere we are.
Rumble.
We're also on there.
YouTube.
We want to get out and reach all the peeps. We love you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
All the social medias.
All of us will be back next week for our live show on Tuesday reviewing Pearl and Black Adam. Tune in then. Have another great slew of headlines for you. Getting closer to Halloween.
We are. Well, we're going to have, the two movie reviews next week, right?
Yep, that's our final two for the Halloween season. Pearl and Black Adam, the big one on the block.
Well, I'm looking forward to one of those.
Same. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside, nope, not our normal new host. He'll be back next week. But
I'd like to leave us with this thought. Will we be on Parler after Kanye buys it?
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.